What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild episode 88, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth. As usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-hosts, Roffle and Corb. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Excited for a new expansion, but we're also kind of in what Kibler has deemed the lame deck period, where we're just about a week away from a new set, and kind of feels like there's a little bit of a lack of motivation in terms of content creation right now. I've personally been taking some days off to relax and brace myself for both the theory crafting and the expansion release because it's always a bit of a grind early on. But very much looking forward to the new cards and talking about a few more of them with you guys today.
Yeah, I cannot remember when I've been more checked out of Wild Hearthstone than right now. Like, I've taken 3 weeks off before where I haven't streamed, and I still think I was more engaged watching other people's content at that time. I'm just hanging out, watching BGs. I know that standard players are playing Wild. Up is down, down is up, and we desperately just need new stuff, which, of course, we're going to dive in today.
Yep. So, before we dive into things, just to kind of outline the content timeline for the next couple weeks. So for today's episode, we're going to be kind of recapping the last 15 to 20 cards that got revealed. And so it'll be a little bit of a shorter episode this week, but to make up for that, next week's episode is going to be kind of insane, right? Because we're going to have the 40 or 50 cards from the card dump. We're going to have a bunch of reversions to talk about, hopefully, as well as a brand new core set. So, God, next week is going to be insane because April 5th, and we're going to get all of those cards dumped on us. And then we have to turn around and theory craft a bunch of decks for Thursday's sweet content. And then we have brand new expansion coming in 10 days. So pretty exciting. Excited to hop into all of these brand new cards to talk about today. So let's just go ahead and get right on into it. Let's talk about some Demon Hunter cards. The first one, Abyssal Depths. So this is a 4-mana shadow spell here for Demon Hunter. Draw your 2 lowest cost minions. Man, every time we see a spell like this, it's got a lot of potential. Tutor some potential combo pieces. How are we feeling about Abyssal Depths?
Well, it draws your Vandar and Frizz in Dragon Demon Hunter, and then you have an easy game from there trying to figure out what good dragons Demon Hunter has access to. But I think just being able to snag the Vandar as well as maybe even I don't know, a 4-mana demon reducer or something along those lines might make sense in a big Demon Hunter. It definitely has some long-term potential. Not sure if I see it right now, but it's kind of got maybe some juicy Psychmelon vibes to it just because there are some, when you're talking about the lowest cost minions, like Vandar alone is an immediate go-to in terms, and tutoring that card tends to be very good for the decks that want to run that card.
I mean, for me, I think the best thing about this card was the card reveal. It had an incredible card reveal with Korra's dad, which people should go, check out and see if they can find the VOD there with a Heart Queen on Twitch. But I think I read a dev comment that this was 3 mana, and I can definitely understand why it would be, up to 4, but I really don't think it's good enough now. I think at 4 mana is just way too slow. Like Rob was saying, if you are fetching the Barnes type level of power level cards, you can understand what the appeal would be, but I think at 4, it's a little bit too slow. Actually, not even a little bit. I think it's way too slow. I'll say that much. I think it's way too bad at this point. Whereas 3, I think it would have been very, very strong.
Well, I don't remember honestly what Lifesteal Demon Hunter list looked like, but you could fetch Talented Arcanist and Moarg Artificers, right? If that gets reverted back to 2 mana, if you're playing kind of an OTK Demon Hunter deck in Wild post reversions, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, it's just a very expensive Shroud, kind of like Shadow Concealment.
But it's still a Shroud,
effect.
right?
Yeah, but a 4-mana Shroud, I don't know. Again, it just goes back to this idea that 3 mana would have been super, super good. We even saw a similar kind of card. I mean, we saw Switcheroo printed, and I think Switcheroo is something that we have a lot more room to get excited about, personally.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being true. And I also think that you can just brute force the draws in your Lifesteal Demon Hunter already, to the point where a card like this probably isn't necessary at 4 mana. You can already pay 2 mana to draw 2 cards with Spectral Sight, and 4 mana to draw a whole new hand and reduce it with the questless line in glide. So I think that they're just better options for drawing that deck.
Yeah, fair enough. I will admit, do not know too much about my non-odd Demon Hunter archetypes there. So I'll take your guys' words on that. All right, one last Demon Hunter card here. We're talking about Glaive Sharks. This is a 4-mana 4/3 beast for Demon Hunter. Battle cry: if your hero attacked this turn, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So that includes the enemy portrait as well. So worst case scenario, let's say 4-mana 4/3 consecrate. There's not a lot of Pirate Warrior at these legend ranks. It doesn't do a whole lot against stuff like Inner Fire Priest and Shaman. So like I think the card is probably good in standard, but not really sure where it's gonna see a home here in Wild.
I think you're missing the clear synergy it has with even Demon Hunter. Obviously, that would break the deck and push it over the top. No, I think this is a high quality card, but like in a weird class in Wild in particular, right? Like you said, it's a consecrate on a body. Like that's a high quality card. But I find it hard to find a Demon Hunter deck that wants to play this. Like even an aggro Demon Hunter probably wants to run a Direct Thar, and this is going to interfere with that. So we'll see.
Yeah, for some reason, another 3-mana card that they printed it for, and therefore I am not interested in it.
This card would be
No,
this card would be
We'd have to
nutty.
tone it down a little. I know.
Yeah.
It would be
Okay.
Flak Mage, but maybe better in that deck. But yeah, just because of the cost, just not as appealing as you'd hope.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I will say I've been playing a little bit of a side tangent here. I've been playing some of White Delight's aggro Demon Hunter deck, and I will say Drekthar, like as good as Drekthar is, doesn't really have a ton of synergy in that deck. And so I'm kind of interested to see if post rotation and we get stuff like Skull Gul'dan or maybe some of those Soul Demon Hunter cards back, maybe we can look at cutting Drekthar and adding cards like this if the meta suits. I just putting that out there. I think like aggro Demon Hunter might have a place in the format moving forward. So just keep an eye on that. We had this discussion, White Delight and I. We're like, Demon Hunter might not actually be the best Demon Hunter deck out there, which is kind of crazy.
Actually, just to tack onto that, he actually did a quick legend run with Reno aggro Demon Hunter that wasn't running Direct Thar because it was a Reno deck, and this might find a home in that style of deck too, especially with not just weapons, but weapons with high durability like the glaive that goes face in that type of deck. So you can pretty reliably have this on 4 without necessarily requiring a hero power.
Yeah, I kind of miss the days of those aggro Reno decks, like Reno Secret Mage. Oh, miss those. I know a lot of people might not, but do miss those. All right, let's move into Druid here. So Druid, we only have one card to talk about. Bottom Feeder, 1-mana 1/3 beast with the Death Rattle. Add a Bottom Feeder to the bottom of your deck with permanent +2/+2. Man, they power crept Astral Tiger. How could they? No, I mean, Corb, I'm gonna come to you first here. Do we replace Dire Mole with Bottom Feeder in our Beast Druid decks, or we don't really want to dilute our draw in that deck?
Yes, we do. I think this is really solid. Also really good with, aquatic form. Another new card that we've talked about previously, the 0-mana Dredge. If you have the mana to play the card this turn, draw it. Obviously works really, really, really well there. So yeah, I like it. I'd even look at that in Big and Druid, just because of looking at the as Sharon Gardens, another card we talked about earlier with some sort of dredge synergy that can form kind of a nice package. So yeah, what's the Hunter card, by the way, that when it had Frenzy it shuffled a copy, because it's very similar to that.
Sunscale Raptor, yeah. A lot of comparisons are being made to that, but like Sunscale Raptor is worse for a few reasons. First of all, it's like it's not shuffling it to the bottom because you don't necessarily want to like top deck a Sunscale Raptor unintentionally on turn 5 or 6 and have that be your play. It like Hunter also doesn't really have the board buffs that Druid does, so it can't really take advantage of cycling large big boards. So yeah, this card is it is just a better diorama for that deck, right? Like the downside is mitigated by the fact that you're not going to oopsie top deck it, and also you have like composting in that deck, which cycles an obscene number of cards, and like you might get to the bottom of your deck sometimes. It kind of plays like cute luck. Obviously, that's a rare, and I think it's more likely that you're just going to be hitting it off of the aquatic form. But like because you have a little bit of control over when you draw it, if you draw it, I think that makes it a lot better than a Sunscale Raptor.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Totally
what it's worth,
agree.
I do think I do think it's definitely like better than Diamol. I'm not actually sure if better Diamol is gonna be worthwhile in like post rotation Beast Druid, because Druid's getting a lot of cool stuff, and I think that Diamol is already one of the weakest cards, and there might be a little bit of a, like Beast Druid is something that hasn't seen as much experimentation as it necessarily should have. I think, despite being really really strong still, and I think there might be some new versions of the deck that might pop up post rotation.
Yeah, and I think most of the time it is just going to be a dire maul. Like that's just kind of fine. But um, it like you said, yeah, dire maul can be a bit of a weak point in that deck at times.
Yeah, I guess we can afford to go on side tangents here because we don't have that many cards to talk about. Kind of coming back to aquatic form in Beast Druid. Do we know how this works with stuff like the Matriarch or cards like that? Or like, does it see it as a 7-mana card if you try to dredge it to the top, or will it see it like as a 0-mana card that you can draw into your hand?
No, I believe it'll see it as a 7-mana card, just because like if you think about the 2-mana card, Moonlit Guidance shows it as 7 mana. Like it's not looking at the cost in your deck; it's looking at the cost changes when it enters your hand, I believe.
Yeah, the differences between cards that discount themselves versus cards that are discounted by other effects. So something like Incantus Flow discards the entire deck, or Librams, for example, another one. Whereas something like Holy Wrath Molten Giant, right? Like the Molten Giant effect doesn't take place until after you've drawn it.
So a little bit of anti-synergy there, I guess. God, can you imagine Beast Druid with like if that worked? Like, ooh, would have been so nice. All right, let's move on to our next card here. It's actually going to be in Mage. We don't have any new Hunter cards to talk about. So let's talk about Spite Lash Siren. Ooh, we got Dark Glare and Mage. You guys ready? This is a 4-mana 2/5 Naga. After you play a Naga, refresh 2 mana crystals. And then this effect will switch to a spell, so then after you play a spell, refresh 2 mana crystals. I think we have yet to see a Naga that is cheap enough that you want to run, or any other good Nagas for that matter. But it's a lot of refreshing of mana crystals, which as we have seen in Wild is a pretty powerful effect.
I mean, there is Spell Coiler, which has direct synergy with this, and is a 2-mana minion that like you just get that mana back. The problem is that going like I don't know, that's not enough mana cheating. You're not going to be able to get enough. Like you run out of board space eventually, right? Like I don't know. It's a cool card. It really makes you think when you play it, and my brain isn't big enough to work through even old Dark Glare, so I can't imagine like figuring out a way to break this. But like I feel like it's too fair a mana cheat, just because of like the restrictions involved, like the being forced to play Nagas, which aside from the spell coiler seem to be rather expensive. Is pretty limiting, and then the fact that you're going to eventually fill your board is also relatively limiting and just run out of cards.
Yeah, obviously we need to see what the Nagas are. I don't know, like after you play a spell, gain 2 mana back. Like that's so nuts. It's just a matter of whether there's enough to get over the Naga requirement, right? It doesn't have to be like an insta game-winning swing necessarily. This can just cheat a lot of mana pretty early in the game, but it's not really there based on what we've seen so far, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm seeing we need the 0-mana. Your next elemental costs 2 less. Elemental evocation. We just need one of those for Nagas, so you can get this out on like turn 2, turn 3, and then like start popping off after that. I say that, and I'm like throwing up in my mouth a little bit as I say it, because that sounds absolutely.
Yeah,
gross,
we could also get like the Flybooter, except a Naga version. Let's do that as well. Yeah.
Neutral 1 mana 1/1. Add 2/1/1 Nagas to your hand because
Let's
Questbard
do
needs
it.
more
I love it.
support. Ooh, yes, big fan, big fan. All right, I'm actually throwing up in my mouth as I say these. I'm sorry. Last mage card here. Let's talk about a really, really good mech for mech mage. Let's talk about Trench Surveyor. This is a 2 mana 3/2 mech. Battlecry Dredge. If you're dredging a mech to the top of your deck, draw it. So 2 mana 3/2, draw a card in mech mage. That seems pretty freaking good.
Yeah, and not only that, we talked about the possibility of a card exactly like this with Asheran Sweeper, right? Where it drops the Sunken Sweeper to the deck. We said, well, I mean, it's very likely they print a mech card that dredges. This is it. But I think this is good independent of that in a mech mage deck, right? You're running a high density of minions. You're probably just running mechs plus Book of Specters. Like, there's your deck, build it. And that seems pretty good, and will make this guaranteed to go off. So it's 2 mana, 3/2 draw card. Seems like the best. Certainly the best mage mech card, arguably the best mech that they've released this expansion.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet on the whole mech mage thing. Like I think this is very good, but I also think it's a little bit overrated from what I've seen. Just because the like a 2 mana for a 2 health card isn't exceptional. Like I understand. Like I'm not trying to downplay it too much. Like it is very strong. It's just this isn't by itself really getting me super hyped to play mech mage. I think like Mecha Shark is really going to be the big thing. Just about how much we can build around that, because that's going to be the big win condition, I think, in whatever the mech mage deck looks like. Being able to have like refill with the Mecha Shark is a huge deal. For what it's worth, by the way, in case anyone doesn't remember, the Mecha Shark is a 3 mana. After you summon a mech, deal 3 damage random. 3 damage randomly split among all enemies. 3 mana 4/3. So, pumping out more fuel for that is kind of huge. But yeah, I'm not quite there yet on the whole mech idea.
I mean,
Oh.
the idea is like if you're playing a mech deck, or if a mech deck was to exist, this card's a very crucial part of that.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's understandable why people are excited. Whether mech mage is going to be good, we'll see on the theory crafting stream, because there's obviously, we'll definitely be playing some mech mage. At least I know I will. And I do agree with you. Like Mecha Shark is like the win con for mech mage, but I think Trench Surveyor is a very important, strong piece that supports that.
I think Mech Warper and Galvanizer are the win condition for the deck. It's just like
as in most mech
but-
decks, sure, yes.
right, but like yeah, Mecha Shark is a big payoff. But like I don't know, you're very often paying 1 mana for a draw card. It's often a Kobold Librarian in a deck that just wants to like hand dump minions. So yeah, I'm not guaranteeing that Mech Mage is going to be good, but like again, independently, this is the best mech that I think is released. Like I would rate it higher than Mecha Shark even in terms of like what it does for mech decks.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. No new Paladin cards. No new Priest cards. No new Rogue cards, guys. It's been a week. We've been sitting out here without any reveals. All right, we finally get to Shaman. We have the Colossal Minion for Shaman here. If you guys haven't seen the reveal for this, by the way, oh my god, dude. The raunchy reveals for all of these that he's done for the past like year and a half have been absolutely amazing. And not to have any spoilers, it was very well timed after the Will Smith slap. So it was very like you have to watch the video. It makes sense what I'm saying if you watch that. But regardless, let's talk about Glug the Gulper, 7 mana Colossal Minion here. So Glug is a 7 mana 3/5 beast with Colossal +3. After a friendly minion dies, gain its original stats. Glug's tail, so these are the 3 appendages that he summons, are 2 mana 2/2 beast with taunt. So basically they have to punch through those taunts, and when they punch through those taunts, Glug ends up as a, 7 mana 9/11, right? Assuming people fairly punch through the taunts, which is a big assumption, but let's say that they do. So yeah, Glug, he is 7 mana. A little bit expensive, but can get out of hand really, really quickly. How are we feeling about him?
Great name, bad card. I think. He's also one of the just biggest colossal minions, right? Like there's something to this is one of the first times where it's like this is taking up 4 board spaces. That's not irrelevant, right? Like obviously it's meant to come back from the board, so it's not going to be in a situation where you're ahead that you really want to play it anyway. But I mean, it does have some cute things aside from taunt. Like the taunt protects it for a turn, but then you have like rush minions that you can bash into things and get pseudo charge damage through. You can trade off those taunt minions that you already have on board while still effectively getting that damage to face with the glurg. So there's some cute things you can do with it. I just um, I don't know where you put this card other than, I don't know, on the board for some memes.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a theme for a lot of the colossal cards. It's just because like what they are, they're probably gonna be a bit too slow for wild, and they're not often super synergy based. And wild is a generally very synergistic format. So I like Roffle. I don't really see the home for this big boy, sadly.
Well, the home for it is in the theory crafting stream where you want to play Shutterwalk Shaman and you need 1 legendary, and so then you shove this in there. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
I've already got my legendary for Shutterwalk Shaman. It's Ambassador Phelan. What are you talking about?
True.
Plus,
All right.
you also just run Blade Master Okani as your legendary, and there's
Oh
that
yeah, I
count as
didn't
new?
know that.
Does that
yeah,
count?
it's from the set.
Sure. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Let's move into Warlock here. We actually do have some Warlock cards to talk about. So let's start with Chum Bucket. This is a 2-mana spell. Give all Murlocs in your hand +1/+1. Repeat for each Murloc you control. I'm not going to repeat the name. So the spell feels like it has this weird middle line, like a lot of cards for this archetype kind of feel when we're talking about Murloc Warlock, where you want to have a lot of Murlocs on the board so that this card does a whole lot. But then if you're vomiting Murlocs onto the board, you're generally not going to have a lot of Murlocs in your hand. So kind of a weird middle ground. How many Murlocs do you kind of want? Like, I guess my question is, how big of a buff do you need so that we're happy playing this card?
I mean, there are a couple of variables at play there, right? There's the number of Murlocs on your board and the number of minions in your hand, right? So like it's there's kind of 2 sliders that you can consider in that regard. I mean, if you've got at least 2 Murlocs on the board, you're getting great value off of this. The problem is like that requires you to also be holding Murlocs in hand, or minions in hand at least. And while Warlock does have good card draw just inherently because of life tap, holding cards in an aggro-y deck is kind of weird. What could be fun with this, though, is if you're holding Hyreek the Bat. We finally have a reliable
This
way.
only gives Murlocs in your hand +1/+1.
Never mind. Hyreek is a beast, just like the Piranhas, by the way. It's easy to get those 2 confused now. I see that.
Yeah, you understand my issues, right? You understand where I was going. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, in that case, then this doesn't make me eager to play Murloc Warlock.
No. I think like the ideal home, you just need so much card draw to make this work, and it's kind of just unimaginable based on what we've seen so far. I'm basically picturing Cute Lock, except every single card is a Murloc. Like that is what you need, and we just don't have that right now. So I don't see it for the lovely Chum Bucket.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. Murloc Warlock is not the only archetype getting support here. We also have an Abyssal Curse Warlock. Some small synergy here. So essentially, we're going to have a cycle of cards that gives your opponent an Abyssal Curse. And so Abyssal Curse is, what's the card called? Curse of Reform, where you would like give your opponent a spell that they had to play to get out of their hand. They got dealt damage when this was in their hand. So Abyssal Curses function similarly, where they only last for 2 turns, right? The opponent doesn't have to play them, but it does take up a slot in their hand. And the Abyssal Curses read, at the start of your turn, take 1, 2, 3 damage, blah, blah, blah. but they do scale. So the first Abyssal Curse you give your opponent will deal them 1 damage for 2 turns. The second Abyssal Curse will deal them 2, and so on, so on. So we're going to have multiple cards that give them Abyssal Curses. The first one that we have seen is Abyssal Wave. So this is a 6 mana shadow spell. Deal 4 damage to all minions. Give your opponent an Abyssal Curse. So 6 mana Hellfire, essentially. But you're giving your opponent an Abyssal Curse. I guess it really depends on all the other Abyssal Curses that we see. Whether it's something you really want to build around, because Abyssal Wave on its own doesn't seem insanely powerful.
No, it doesn't. And so, question about the Abyssal Curses: can the opponent play them and remove the curse from their hand so they can expend the 2 mana to avoid taking the damage? Is that? But at the start of their turn, they're already taking that damage, so that just prevents the second wave of damage. Is
Yes,
that
I
correct?
believe so.
Okay, so it's kind of like a sort of tax on their mana if they want to avoid taking damage, which I like the concept. I'm gonna need to see higher quality cards for the archetype than this. Like it's gonna depend on the quality and really the number of Abyssal Curse generators that we can get, right? Like I would love to fill my opponent's hand with curses, but if I don't have enough cards to do that, I'm not going to be able to do that. And we're short on slots for Warlock, so we might get maybe 1 or 2 more of these, and that's unfortunate because but this is an archetype that needs like a full set's worth of support, I think.
How does the damage scale again? Sorry, Mia. I feel like I
So
got confused there.
the first Abyssal Curse that they get deals 1 each turn. The second Abyssal Curse will deal 2. The third one will deal 3. So the more Abyssal Curses you get, the more it scales, the more damage it'll do.
Oh, I had nothing to add. I just don't think this is gonna be enough because we're probably not gonna get enough of these cards for it to make sense.
Well,
So the only thing that I could think that would maybe make it worth playing is if you have something that's attached to maybe a battle cry so that you could brand it, bounce it back to hand, that kind of thing, and actually throw it into play. This is a shadow spell, so it does work with Tamsin. But that's a 9 mana combination of cards to do 3 damage, 6 damage over 2 turns. Like that's a lot of effort for very little payoff. Plus the Tamsin dies, so I don't even know if that would necessarily work with this card in particular. So never mind. I don't know. We need more tools to make that worthwhile.
let's talk about one of those tools. Let's talk about one of the Warlock legendaries, Secules. Secule. Let's go with that one. That sounds cooler. It's a 5 mana 6/5 legendary. Your Abyssal Curses heal you for the damage that they deal. Battle Cry. Give your opponent an Abyssal Curse. So there you go. Another Abyssal Curse. A little bit of a payoff. It really does feel like Abyssal Curses are kind of where they're going to push Control Warlock for like that standard cycle, right? As a way for it to kind of end the game.
Yeah.
It feels like the vibe that I'm getting from the 2 cards here. I mean, it's a 5 mana 6/5. It's like, hey, you're going to heal for like 4 or 5, and your opponent's going to take like 4 or 5, which I guess is an okay card. Not great, but not the worst thing we've ever seen.
It's again going to depend on how much support is printed for it. To be clear, I really want this to work. Like this is thematic with what warlocks do. It's an affliction warlock, which is like damage over time spells in a card game. So it's really like, you know, thematic with the class in Warcraft. I like the idea of kind of that lifesteal mechanic associated with it. So like thematically, I really want this to work. Practically, I can't see how these are the cards that are going to do it. Is my problem.
Yeah. It feels like it's got that Soul Demon Hunter or Soul Fragment vibe where like it's gonna get support for 1 expansion and it's not gonna be enough to push a deck in WoW because you're just not gonna have enough synergy.
But yeah, but even then, like they think of how many Soul Demon Hunter and Warlock cards were printed that expansion. Like we already have what 6 Warlock cards showing here. They can't give enough support for both Warlock or Murloc and this in the same set. So like one of them is going to get left stranded, and right now it kind of looks like both of them are.
Yeah.
To be honest, like Warlock has a higher number of cards, but like their quality isn't that great. So I don't know. Warlock's kind of kind of in a weird spot after this, or with this expansion, it seems.
Let's abandon the Murlocs because there's no way that those ever take off, and let's lean into this a little bit. I don't know if they'll do that though, because I know the Demon Seed still exists in Standard, so don't know if they'll get another set of tools. All right, there are no more warrior cards either, so we're gonna be hopping over to our neutrals here. We have 3 to talk about. So let's start with School Teacher. So this is a 4-mana 5/4 Naga. Battlecry, add a 1/1 Nagaline to your hand. Discover a spell that costs 3 or less to teach it. So basically, it's kind of like, God, what is... I guess it's like Zakka's Golem. There's like a Shaman card that does this as well.
Yeah, Hagatha Swamp Queen?
Yeah, there you go. So the 7-mana Hagatha, right? Where this 1/1 Nagaline that you're adding to your hand is going to cast that spell as its battle cry. So, I mean, it's cute. Like it does things. Are the things powerful enough for Wild, especially since we have this really large Discover pool?
I mean, this is Corb's activator for the 4-mana mage card, right? You just wait until turn 8. Ooh. You sit there and you hold cards in hand from turns 1 through 8 until you have these 2 exact cards, and then you realize that you're already on to the next game because you've lost. It's wild.
This is my activator? I have fallen so far since the Apprentice nerf. This has just been a disaster.
We need a mech warper for Nagas is really what it comes down to. And by we need one, I mean don't ever do that, please, God. We already have one mech warper, that's enough.
Yeah. Yep. Doesn't really seem like it's strong enough for our format, right? On first glance.
Yeah, I made it 4-mana 5/4, like no real immediate impact. I mean,
hey, we run
Drekthar,
which is 4-mana 4/4. Come on.
Yeah, right. I mean, played on 5. Discover a spell that has 3 or less. This is no way, dude. This is no way. Like, I can't say this in any constructed deck.
All right. Let's talk about a card that probably could see constructed play. Let's talk about Smothering Starfish. 3-mana 2/4 Beast. Beast tag might be relevant here. Battlecry, silence all other minions. So this is kind of like the showstopper that we're running in a lot of Warlock decks to counter Free Shaman. Except it's on a Battlecry, so it's 1 card. It doesn't require 2. With the downside of there's currently a lot of Weblord hate going on in the format, and so this gets hit by that Weblord hate. But Smothering Starfish, I mean, we've got Free Shaman, we've got Inner Fire Priest running rampant in the format. We've got Spreading Plague running rampant on our format. How are we feeling about Smothering Starfish?
I feel like the best place for it is Free Shaman. Am I crazy about that? Like, it's like people were running the Elemental for a while to unfreeze their boards, but like this just seems better. Like it in the Shaman matchup, it deals with that Weblord problem, albeit on turn 5, and unlocks that. The all other minions is really critical for your Shudderwalk boards, in that like, well, I guess maybe that could go a little bit wonky if you freeze and then unfreeze them. You wouldn't lose the stats on Shudderwalk, so maybe it's not all that great. It does add a bit of a failure rate, and I'm beginning to kind of question myself on that. But like, you're likely to to be fair, you are likely to have more Snowfall Guardians in your pool than you are Smothering Starfishes. But in general, I think it's, if you're going to be running a silence card, it's probably this one, right? Like, there's no way you're considering Ironbeak Owl or any single target silence in our format right now. So like, this is just your silence deck if you're running it, and it's much more fairly cost than a lot of the other silence cards. So like, there's a legitimate argument to run it. Just run the card.
In Shaman, I think I'd be a lot more down if Devolve didn't exist. I think Devolve kind of like fills that role a lot of the time. And so Shaman isn't really the one that's looking forward to that. I don't know. It's such an interesting card, right? I feel like this with Weblord kind of is sort of interesting in sort of the decision tree that it creates. Like a deck like Beast Druid, right? Would a deck like Beast Druid consider this? And maybe if it wasn't playing Weblord, and I'm not entirely sure. Like, they they kind of clash, and you can only pick one, and they kind of hit very different things. But it's kind of interesting thought because they both also hit the shaman stuff at the same time. So I don't know. This is a very interesting card, I think, for Wild, and I think I would lean towards it not really seeing constructed play. But then again, I would have said the same thing about Showstopper, and Showstopper didn't see play for a long time until it did. And so, a very meta dependent card, and something that if the whole free shaman in a fire craze continues into the next expansion, then yeah, I can see it being a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like cards like this that give you some deck building tension. Like, is it worth running the Web Lords or is it worth running this? I also think it's just like really interesting that like we went from Ironbeak Owl to Showstopper and Smothering Starfish. Like we nerfed all these cards because we wanted silence to have a cost to it, and then we just printed Showstopper and we printed Starfish. 3 mana silence the entire board, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. Like I'm glad that this exists for an appropriate meta in Wild, but it is just kind of funny seeing the evolution of how they kind of evaluate and cost silence.
I mean, yeah, a lot of things in the Hearthstone design philosophy have shifted over time. Yeah. Wait until I tell you about how much drawing cards used to cost. So yeah, it's a clear shift in philosophy amongst the design team. Yeah, I tend to go with maybe it's better that this type of thing exists, in just given the the type of decks that we've been seeing. Having any sort of answer to that feels like something that I'm into, just mostly just because like it feels really bad to build a board and then have it frozen turn after turn against Shaman, and being able to punish that would be a nice thing. I think that while you say that there's a bit of tension between Weblord, another way of looking at it is that it gives you a little bit of redundancy against Shaman, right? Like you mentioned that it's two things that they both interact with the Shaman positively. You don't always draw both of them together, and having the the flexibility to use one or the other make work out from time to time. It's just a matter of like how good or bad it is in other situations. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Last card here that we're going to be talking about today. Our last neutral legendary, I believe this is 4 out of 4. We have Any Storm Coil. So Any Storm Coil is a 5-mana 4/4 with the battle cry. Choose a friendly mech, summon a copy of it with Rush, Wind Fury, and Divine Shield. So curve out into Any Storm Coil, copy your mech warper that's been magnetized onto, and now you get double discounts. And yeah, she's not a mech herself. I'm really trying hard to sell her as a viable legendary. Please back me up on this. Thank you.
No, sorry, I can't. I'm not buying. I wish she were a mech. That might give me a better argument, but like as it stands, she's just kind of like, I don't know, a 5 mana. Like you don't want to pay mana for your cards in mech decks, right? Like 5 mana is a lot. She does a lot. If you can stick a Leviathan, that feels great, right? Because you get to draw or dredge twice, once after you draw and or once before you draw and once after. So I mean, that's pretty ambitious.
When you summon the copy of the Leviathan, it will also summon an extra copy of the appendix. Right. So you'll get to draw 2.
No, I know.
Draw 2. Yeah.
Well, I was assuming that the first half of the first appendage is dead by that point, because you're not playing these on the same turn, because that's 10 mana at minimum. Don't be ridiculous.
Oh, true. Oh, yeah. I'm being ridiculous. Thanks.
Yeah. No, I think that this card is cool, and I would love for it to exist, but probably not in our format.
Yeah, my gut instinct was this is just going to be terrible. I'm trying to sell myself a little bit, though, looking at it, just because it does a lot. Like, upside's so high. How could it not be good?
Here's something for you to consider. Reno Pocket Galaxy Mech Mage. You played this. You played this and Gaia the Tectonic. and you summon copies of it that also deal the Mega Wind or the Wind Fury allows it to deal 2 damage when it attacks because
Mm-hmm.
because of the effect on Gaia. So
I'm still
and
waiting for the
we've
payoff. Still waiting.
yeah well we've once again reached the point where we're talking about Luna's Pocket Galaxy Mage. So I guess
Yeah, the Lotus Pocket
Oh, we're
Galaxy
listening to this rule
Unlucky.
now. Okay, okay.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of sad.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna lie to you. Outside of Finley, I know Roffle, you love Phelan, but outside of Finley's, like enabling some of these super high rolly decks, like the neutral legendaries don't seem like they're doing a whole lot in the format outside of Okani in Shaman.
Okay, I was going to say Okani exists, but I feel like Okani's been popping up here and there in other classes as well. I ran him in Even Shaman the other day, and he seems pretty good in that type of mid-rangey deck. I could see him doing things elsewhere.
Yeah, he's
Um,
very strong in various standard decks, like popping up. I think it's like Shadow Priest and standard. So yeah.
mhm.
Okay,
So
maybe I take my statement back here a little bit. Just I guess just a little bit of disappointment after seeing like Storm Coil and I'm not gonna lie to you, like Queen of Shar doesn't excite me too much, so a little bit
Yeah.
of disappointment. But there's a lot of class legendaries that I am pretty excited for. So
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the first expansion, right? These are usually the lowest power level, and things like that. They're kind of resetting a little bit, so not a huge shocker that we're kind of toning down a little bit from the craziness. I mean, we can do Stormwind, Meowth. We can do Stormwind every expansion if that's what
Dude,
you want, right?
if we
I
have
was going to
Stormwind
ask
every
that.
year, it might as well be every expansion. Like, come on, just get it out of the way. God.
I was going to ask the exact same question as to whether he wanted
Yeah.
another Stormwind, which
I mean, I wasn't trying to make a comment about power level. I was just talking about like none of these
Oh,
like
like deck
excite
building
me.
possibilities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
none of them
right.
really excite
Yeah.
me. There are a couple of class legendaries, like Hook Tusk is fucking sick, right? There's
Yeah.
very few of them from the neutrals, so
okay,
that's all I was saying.
some, something that I personally missed about Hook Dusk, just because you know it is a shorter episode and tangents are acceptable today. Um, did you know that the take their supplies, which reads take 5 cards from your opponent's deck, adds them to hand? That doesn't add
Yeah.
them to your deck. I was expecting them to shuffle it into your deck and be able to draw those cards. That is a draw 5, but from your opponent's deck. So that is significantly better than I anticipated. Both of the things that say take cards add them to your hand. So I don't know if we clarified that or made it clear during last week's episode, but like that's pretty good, or at least better.
Hook Tusk is gonna be busted. I'm gonna play so much Hook Tusk. I'm gonna play so
I
much
mean,
Reno. I said this about Reno Pyro Warrior too, didn't I? But
yeah.
I'm gonna play so much Hook Tusk. It's gonna be fun.
Okay. To be clear, I'm a little bit higher on Reno Rogue than I am Reno Pirate Warrior, just because like
It's still a Reno Pirate deck. It's just in Rogue and not. I don't know.
Every
What, do they make-
expansion, we move on to a new one. You know, can't help yourself.
yeah.
I have a problem. I know, but I mean, I'm excited to like Shadow Step Hook Tusk, Temu Hook Tusk, Potion of Illusion some Hook Tusk. It's gonna be really degenerate, really gross, but it's gonna be fun for me. Probably not for the opponent, but yeah. I mean, that's gonna wrap it up for kind of new cards here until April 5th when we see the card dump. So to kind of wrap up the episode, since we do have a little bit of time here. What archetypes are you guys looking forward to from the new expansion? Like I know we've talked a lot about cards, but taking a little bit of a step back, like what archetypes that are getting support here are you really excited for? And maybe if you want to throw in some cards as well, feel free.
Um, honestly, I just like doing silly things with Shutterbox. So like the Ambassador Phelan Sir Finley interaction is one that I'm interested in doing, so that I can get a lot of colossal minions. Just see exactly how bad they are. I have a pretty good idea, but you know, get confirmation on that. So that's kind of like the goofy thing I'm interested in doing. That along with the 2-mana warrior card. After Corb talked to me about the Forge of Souls plus Hammer draw engine and even warrior, like I haven't been able to get that out of my head. In terms of like archetypes that I think will be viable, I'm curious to see how Mech Paladin does with the radar detector, and whether that makes it worth just like switching away from the non-mech versions of the deck. I mean, you got a couple reasonably high quality mechs in that deck as well, and like honestly, I think Reno Rogue has been close. You're already kind of naturally running a lot of pirates in that deck, so just slamming a Hook Tusk in there makes pretty good sense to me. You've got a lot of ways to fetch pirates. So you've got raiding party. You've got the 1 mana pirate that adds more pirates to hand. You've got patches to increase that count just because it's summon, not play. You've got Brigand to do the same, and you honestly got some decent pirates from the set. I think that like in that deck, you can probably make a decent argument for Bootstrap Sunken. Like it's just replacing Flick in terms of like a good removal card, and even Cutlass Carrier is kind of interesting as another way to fetch some pirates, and on a reasonable body that's like a must remove. You just dagger on 2 into Courier on 3, and you're working your way towards Hook Tusk, which you still need to draw the Hook Tusk in order to play her. So it's nice to be able to like have a few different means of getting there.
Yeah, I try not to think too much directly about the theory crafting until we see everything. I just kind of prefer to have all the jigsaw pieces before trying to do the puzzle. But the big things that stand out to me are just Roffle talked a lot about Reno Rogue, which looks really intriguing. But I think Priest, just as a class, it feels like it got a whole bunch of really weird stuff that feels very interesting to, try and explore. And let's try and break the game as much as as much as I can. It's kind of the thing that I'm looking forward to.
Not surprised that Priest is the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it says mana cheat and card draw, and it's like, oh, mana cheat and card draw. Ooh.
Yeah. I'm kind of on board with Roffle of the more fair things when it comes to like Mech Paladin and Reno Rogue. I'm also kind of just excited about Beast Druid and kind of just the aggressive Druid archetypes with the Gardens and Aquatic Form, the new 1-drop. So excited to see what we can do with those. Maybe some Token Druid with Flipper Friends and Otters. Like, sounds...
Oh, I forgot one. Multicast the Shaman. I think that
that's
really,
where I was
cool.
gonna go last.
Yeah.
Like the whole, what is it called? The Radiance of Ashara plus the Coral Keeper, and you got some additional cards like with just Scalding Geyser. Seems very innocuous, but like has a lot of synergy in that class. So, just to come back to Bioluminescence, because you guys weren't sold on this last week. Coral Keeper on 5, then you Bioluminescence on 6, and then you like pop off with some like Lava Burst or something. Like that sounds hot, no?
Yeah, I thought we talked about that last week.
It's gonna work. Trust. It's.
Yeah.
I don't remember if we talked about it last week. I just wanted to revisit it because you guys weren't sold on it. But
still not. But I'm willing to play it. I would be happy to be wrong if like a 5 mana play into a 6 mana turn is something that like happens in Wild. I would love that.
Back to the good old days. Yeah. All right. That being said, I think we're going to wrap it up here for this week's episode. A little bit of a shorter one. Keep us in a good mental spot. Keep you guys wanting to actually listen to us next week when we do like a 2-hour episode, because we're going to have 40 cards from Voyage to the Sunken City, plus a billion reverts, plus some core set highlights to talk about. Appreciate all of you guys listening all the way to the end. Roffle and Corb, thank you again for joining me week after week. Let the people know where they can find you and your theory crafting stream on Thursday.
Yeah, theory crafting will be happening for all of us at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 Eastern, and I believe 2 a.m. you said, Corb, in Australian time.
Yeah,
so,
I did say that.
Yeah, check your local time for when that is for you. It's consistent globally, so hopefully you can make it. If not, be sure to check out the VODs for us and anyone else doing wild stuff. There's some really creative deck builders, including Martian, who's been a frequent member of the show. Dane, I believe, is doing some deck building as well. So it's going to be a good time. Yeah, you can find mine at twitch.tv/Roffle, and you can find my YouTube videos following that at Roffle on YouTube as well.
And you can find me, assuming I wake up from my alarm, at Corbettgames Twitch. So check me out there with the theory crafting stuff, and also on YouTube and Twitter. That's there at Corbettgames. Thank you guys very much for listening or watching.
You guys can find me at GetMeOut on all of those platforms. I might actually get back into making YouTube content with these theory crafting videos. Take advantage of some of that for the first time in like months. But just in general, show all of your support for like wild theory crafting, because if they see that you guys enjoy it and like it, they'll do it again in the future. Keep showing some content creators some love and support. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And yeah, thank you again to everybody listening all the way to the end. If you guys enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you guys drop a like, comment, subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything like that. It's a small thing, but does actually support us a ton. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys again next week for a super long episode. Later.